Hey guys, and welcome to the March 2016 edition of Casual MTG. This is a series I do here on this channel where the decks are more intended for fun, weird kitchen table play. They're usually weird, quirky decks, often built around janky mythics. I have a strange affinity for them, as you can see from my other Casual MTG videos. This is one of those. Before I get to talking about the deck, I wanted to say my videos are also posted on paperchampion.net. If you're looking for more great Magic the Gathering content, you should check that site out. Anyway, this video is partly a result of a Twitter poll I did, where I was either going to make a deck around Empty the Pits or Ghastly Conscription, both garbage mythics that are rotating out in April. But both cards I would have been happy to build around, and Empty the Pits received 80% of the votes, so it won by a lot. Speaking of Twitter, I'll probably from now on going to do polls to help me decide what I should do for Casual MTG, and if you want to, have an impact and a say on what kind of content I produce, that's one way to do it. And my Twitter is _magic, so you can find me fairly easily. Anyway, the deck is built around Empty the Pits, as I said. May not be a card you're familiar with because it's pretty bad. It's very hard to make work. It requires 4 black mana, which makes it kind of a pain. But it has Delve, and you put X/2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield tapped. But it is an instant. That's the one thing that kind of saves it and makes it a somewhat viable win condition, is you can just fire this off in your opponent's turn, put 22/2s in play, and swing for the wind on your turn, hopefully. So that's kind of the dream. So this deck has a lot of self-milling. It's 3 colors, Sultai. I mean, green is sort of a very small splash for Reclaim. But anyway, I'll get into talking about the deck. These decks are also very budget, by the way. This one is around 13 tickets on Magic Online. But anyway, so my mana base, I had to make sure almost all my lands produce black because the card I want to win the game with costs 4 black. The only exception to this is 1 forest and 1 island for fetching with Evolving Wilds. And Evolving Wilds is good with Empty the Pits because of Delve, so I needed to have it in here anyway. But yeah, 4 Dismal Backwaters for blue and black, the Evolving Wilds to help me get my colors and add to my Delve, 2 Lana War Wastes, 4 Opulent Palaces, 2 Sunken Hollows, and what is this, 6 Swamps? I guess so, yep. And the deck is basically a bunch of self-mill and then fire off a big, and it's sort of a control deck before then too, removing things and things like that. And then firing off a big Empty the Pits. So yeah, we have Reclaim because we're going to be self-milling. It's a card I kind of hate, but it's really the only budget card that gets you cards back from your graveyard in Standard. If you have Den Protector, obviously that's better. But it's nice to use it at the end of my opponent's turn. It's possible I end up milling both my Empty the Pits, in which case I really need a Reclaim to get it back. And so that's the idea there. Anticipate helps me get to my Empty the Pits. It's also a cheap instant that goes to my graveyard quickly. I run 4 Screeching Scobs, which are 2 mana, 2/1s, who mill the top 2 cards in my library, and 4 Sultai Skullkeepers, who are basically the same other than creature type. I run 3 Tygam Scheming because it helps you get very good card selection while also stocking the graveyard with, at times 6 cards if that's what I need, counting the scheming, and at times, 3, 4, 5 cards if I want to draw certain things. I have Grasp of Darkness. It's just a very high-quality removal spell in Standard right now. I have 3 Monastery Sieges, which let me draw a card and discard a card every upkeep. I haven't found myself saying dragons at all with this format, with this deck, but maybe it'll happen sometime. I have Oath of Jace to help me draw into my win condition while also adding to my graveyard. I have 2 Languishes to deal, to give me the time I need to fire off my Empty the Warrens. And then I have some tutor effects. I have 2 Dark Petitions. I'm going to have Spell Mastery a lot. So sometimes I can play Dark Petition, and then cast, if I have enough cards in my graveyard, Empty the Pits for a lot. CDC, is sort of an alternate win condition at times. It's just a 5 mana 4/6 with Death Touch, which is hard for my opponent to get through, and it also searches my library for whatever I need, whether it be a board sweeper or an Empty the Pits. I run 1 Crux of Fate main board, and then of course 2 Empty the Pits, and that is more or less the deck. I do have a sideboard. Against really aggressive decks, this deck can be kind of slow, although it's nice that these guys trade really easily, and plus the Scobs and the Skullkeepers, that is. And plus I want them in my graveyard as is. But I also, for more aggressive decks, have my CDC's Faithfuls, which are good blockers who can also bounce things. I also have Duress to deal with control decks and things like that. Jotty Offshoot is another card for good against like aggro and burn and things like that. One Disdainful Stroke for against, decks that are going big, ramp decks. Transgress the Mind's good against a lot of people. Ultimate Price, because you do occasionally play people where it's better than Grasp of Darkness. 2 Complete Disregards, sort of the same thing. It's good against creatures that have to be exiled, like Hangerback Walkers and various other creatures that leave the battlefield effects. Languish is, another one in the sideboard for decks that are a little lower to the ground, where I would rather have a third Languish than a Crux of Fate, and a second Crux of Fate for against decks where the Crux is better because their creatures are just too big. So that is the deck. It is pretty janky, but that's kind of the point. And I'll show you guys my what it costs here. So I'm not lying to you. $13.23 as of the end of February when I'm recording this, actually. So I don't think prices will change too much, honestly. So not on these cards, although maybe Languish and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the deck. I'll now play 3 matches with it so you can see it in all of its glory. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.